meeting of Plain Township Board of Trustees. If ever by, I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before us, we have our agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add honor home update.
Okay.
Would be a short.
Good. Just House Bill 126. Your concerns of trustees. Any other additions, deletions, or corrections? The agenda will stand as amended. First item up is the sheriff's report. We'll turn that over to Captain Carver.
Good evening. For the month of November 2021, we had 920 calls for service, 12% increase from last year. 73 crashes, 78% increase from last year. 10 injury crashes, slight increase there. 70 alarms, 243 traffic stops, up 46% from last year. 157 citations, 53 arrests, 628 vacation checks. For the detective's report, 5 cases were assigned, 1 of them disposed of a theft of motor vehicle. Look at your charts to see where the increases from 2020. On track about average where we've been.
The theft of a motor vehicle, was that one? I got a call this weekend, I was gonna hit you up afterwards. Was it theft and gutted a Nissan Xterra?
This one wasn't that nice, I returned the other. Probably.
I've got somebody that lives down in Florida, they've got a child still up this way that I'll share with you afterwards to see what you may know.
Any other questions?
Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions for the sheriff's office? Nothing? Okay. No?
Maybe this issue that they're actually here for might fall
Yeah,
under
issues
that.
for the sheriff's
Yeah.
office. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my name is Holly Goddard. Should I?
No, you don't have
You
to,
don't have
just give your address for the board.
It's 2933 18th Street Northwest, Canton, 44708. So I know I've talked to Mr. Farrar a couple of times over the phone about a VRBO or Airbnb that is being run out of a property at 2926 18th Street Northwest. We're experiencing loud parties. There's speculation of drug activity and illegal gambling, amongst other things that we think is going on in this property. We were asked to take photographs, so on and so forth. Last Friday evening, at approximately 11 p.m., there were approximately 12 police vehicles, undercovers, Stark County Sheriff, that we were alerted by bullhorns asking for people to come out of the house with their hands up. Lasers being shined all over the front of the property. My question for this board is this property zoned to be able to do this in a residential neighborhood as a short-term rental property?
So, short version, Eric, keep me straight here from Lee. Running businesses in residential allotments is not permitted. There are a couple conditional uses. Actually, the whole VRBO, Airbnb is something that we're looking at from a language aspect. So today, I don't know, Eric.
I think what we would say at this point is that if it's in a residential area and it's zoned for residential, running a business out of there would violate our zoning. As you know, this is kind of a new issue for political subdivisions to deal with, based on what you're saying, Airbnb and VRBO. So those are things that actually our zoning director, Tom, and I have been looking at, and have some ideas on how we'd like to change our zoning code to address exactly what you're talking about.
Our concern is, and these are my neighbors as well, we're all concerned with the well-being of the neighborhood. There are younger children that live in the neighborhood. We're concerned for their safety as well, especially after what happened the other evening with guns blazing and, you know, if somebody would have came out of that house and started firing, my house is in the line of fire. Max lives next door to the house, he would have been in the line of fire.
Sure.
So our safety is a concern, realizing that this could happen in any neighborhood. What my concern is I know that there's been a question about legality of going after the property owners. Is this zoned to be able to do this?
Well, right now, to answer your question, the only thing that would be in violation of zoning would be the running of a business. As the other stuff's all criminal that you're mentioning with guns and
Sure.
drugs and the.
Sure.
But what we're talking about, at least at this point, is looking at our zoning code to come up with legislation to limit where these things can go. That decision hasn't been made in full yet, but certainly one of the ideas that we've toyed with is to limit it to, obviously, sections that are not residential.
Right.
So that's kind of
I
what
think
we're
the
working on
important
at
piece
this
here is,
point.
we can't outright ban them,
That's right.
because then you're discriminating against a specific type of business, so the best that we're gonna be able to do is to restrict the footprint.
Yeah.
No different than we've done with skills.
Although I will say that I do think that if the board is so inclined, this particular property could be looked at just from the running of a business perspective.
Right now.
I will tell you, I will tell you all, the law is really in flux on this.
Yeah.
You know, this is new, and you're getting a decision from one court that says one thing and one says another. It's really kind of a new thing that's making its way through the different levels. But if the board wanted to, that's certainly someplace we could start. Do you agree with that, Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess my other question would be, and I know that I've talked to Mr. Farrar about this before, could a letter be written to the owners of the property? I mean, from my understanding, these owners live out of state.
Yeah,
So do they even know what's happening with this property?
yeah, well, they know they're renting it. We know that, right? So certainly, we could generate a letter that says, we believe it's in violation of our zoning, and start there.
Yeah.
That could certainly be a starting point if that's the direction the board wanted to go.
People probably have to go that way anyway.
I would think you're right.
Yeah, because they're running a business out of their home, which they
Yeah.
can't, so,
But it's not even their home, but in a residential
right, in
area.
a residential
We know
area.
they don't.
Yeah,
Well, I know when I talked to him before, he said that he thought that we would have to start legal proceedings.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if by doing this letter, that's inciting legal proceedings.
Well, I can tell you, as the law director, that letters work sometimes and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, I get
So,
it.
yeah, so the letter goes out. One of the things you have to be prepared to do is act on it. Should they ignore it, or should they do whatever? And then that's a decision this board has to make as to how far to push that particular issue.
Like I said, I know that there's been numerous police reports made, or should have been police reports made, because the Stark County Sheriffs have been out there numerous times to that piece of property during the time that it has been a VRBO.
Okay.
So,
Do you know how long it's been a VRBO?
6 to 8 months.
Okay. And are they renting it like on a weekly basis, a nightly, do you know?
It seems to be nightly.
Okay,
You know, I know,
like
like,
there's
for
a
instance.
turnover, you can tell?
Yeah,
From night to night?
definitely.
Okay.
So I own a rental piece of property in the Florida Keys, and in order for us to do nightly rentals, we had to purchase what they call a transient license. It's $10,000 a year, okay? If you rent it past 3 nights, then you didn't have to purchase the transient license. I feel like that short-term one evening is what's bringing the problem in.
Yes.
We don't have a
Yeah.
problem with people staying there for 2 or 3 nights to go to the Football Hall of Fame
yeah.
Right.
or visit family or so forth. Even workers working on the Hall of Fame, that's great. It's these one-night
It's the
scenarios
transient
that are
one night.
creating
And
the problem.
you've hit on an issue, which is how do we define short-term rental?
Yeah,
Is it 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights? You know, that's always the issue, is how do we police this the most effective way?
well, like I said, and I can't go by every place, but I know in the state of Florida that 3 nights is the legality, that anything over 3 nights, that you don't pay that transient license.
Yeah.
Anything under that, you pay a hefty transient license
Yeah.
for the property to be able to do that.
Okay. Well, I would say, know that we're working on it, know that we are now fully aware of it, that you've come and shared what you've shared. I think I'm getting the sense from the side eyes that I'm getting that maybe we'll start with a letter, and we'll have Tom send that out.
We take immediate action on what we
Yeah.
can, just for the sake of operating.
Right.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think what the next step will be is maybe to have Tom and I meet and come up with what we think are some solutions for the zoning language.
We've got to start on that. I
Yeah,
need to get
great.
together with you.
Okay, and so then we can report back to the board about how we want to address it that way.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
If you could, sir, could you call the zoning office tomorrow? I need to get a little more information.
Absolutely, I can even give you a business card if you'd like with my personal cell phone
That'd
number.
be fine.
Okay. So don't care if I walk up there and give it to you
Sure,
now?
absolutely. So do we have anything else as far as for issues for the sheriff, or does that encompass?
I have one question.
Thank you. Just state your name and address for the
Frank
record.
Singhouse, 2939 18th Street. What are we supposed to do? Because I live catty corner from the house. He lives directly beside. What if gunfire occurs?
Call the sheriff.
No, I understand, but loss of life because this house, I know for a fact it's rented for hours. Because one night I seen 7 different families go to this home. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, I think anything like that happens, it's a call to the sheriff.
What if I can't call the sheriff? If they start shooting and I get shot, I can't call. What do we do?
And
Yeah,
the neighbors will call.
Yeah, somebody will have to,
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because.
Well, I'm just saying, because it's just crazy. You know?
We don't disagree. It's
Yeah.
with what our limited purview is and what we can constrict, we're more than certainly willing to do that. But then, you know, we contract with the sheriff so they can do the legal enforcement. Because if we tried to play cops ourselves, that'd be a whole major liability going on.
No, I understand that.
So, I would encourage, just keep up the dialogue with our office and so forth, through different zoning type issues.
yeah.
You know, two-way communication if something new develops or see something, because then we can note it in our zoning files and then, you know, clearly make sure it's still shared with the sheriff's office and so forth, so. Anything else?
Yeah, my name's Max Lamb. I live at 2932, right next door. And it wasn't a happy situation. I'm 80 years old, I want to live a little longer. And it could have been out of control big time. And I would like to see it shut down. It ruined the whole neighborhood.
Again, this is
We
where,
had a quiet neighborhood, now we don't. And you got kids in the area, it's just not a good situation.
again, that's where the immediate action of treating it as a business in a residential area we can do. But, and then longer term, and when I say longer term, it's not that we're gonna take 6 to 9 months to figure this out, but once they get the language, then it has to go before the zoning commission
Go to regional planning.
for, you know, a public hearing.
Yeah.
And then once they've voted on it, then it's typically, what,
2 weeks for.
Two-
or
two-
4 weeks.
yeah, it's 30 days from there to send it to the board, so we can send out notice so the public, you know, can come out and air any concern, opposition or support of it, and from there, once, you know, we would pass, because typically these issues, we're following the trail of development, so it's not like, well, I need a couple more weeks to figure this out.
Yeah.
Eric keeps us up. Once we pass it, then there would be a legal window for that zoning code to technically take effect.
That's correct.
30 days.
So, yeah, so at a minimum, it's every bit of at least 90 to 120 days
Yeah.
before anything on restricting it to an area. in the meantime, leading up to that, it would end up being multiple citations, potentially on continuing to operate a.
Well, and what ends up happening, just so you know, and this is where the patience comes in, and I'm sorry, it's not our timeline, it's the Ohio Revised Code, is that process is one side of it. But should they dispute the letter that we send, and we decide, okay, we're gonna go to court, that's even longer.
Sure.
You know, once it gets in there, we're at the mercy of court schedules, which are not like regular schedules, in any way, shape, or form. So just so you know, kind of that's a timing issue that we don't control.
Yeah, I think all three of us understand, at least I understand that this isn't gonna happen overnight.
Right.
But we've tried to go for the last 6 months and make phone calls and to see if we couldn't get something established with this. And now it's kind of come to this point that, I mean, imagine being woke up at 11 o'clock at night in your own home from a bullhorn saying, come out with your hands up. And you look out the front window and there's lasers just going everywhere. It's scary.
Yeah, sure, I get it.
In the meantime, Captain Carver, can we get extra patrols in that area?
Yes, certainly, we can do extra patrols, try to watch what's going on. I encourage all the neighbors to call us when these people are coming to stay there and the stuff that's going on. Call us as soon as something starts to look like it's a problem. And I spoke to a couple of you earlier today. Like I said, one of the problems for us is, you live in that house and the neighbors call and say that's a problem house. We can start an investigation. It's very hard for us to develop an investigation on somebody that's been there for 2 hours.
Sure.
A little bit of background of what happened last Friday was that it actually stemmed from an incident in Summit County. The Summit County Sheriff's Office Task Force. Eventually, some arrests were made with about 20 pounds of cocaine. We ended up tying back to that house. They were executing a search warrant with. We provided some minimal assistance, but it was state troopers, Summit County. It was a multi-agency effort to execute a search warrant there to follow up on additional things that happened in regards to all that cocaine.
One more question. Living in the Hall of Fame area, if more of these Virgo homes crop up, can you put a stop to it before it gets out of hand?
No, we've just explained the timeline and the timetable. You can't, at the end of the day, we can't just say no VRBO, no Airbnbs permitted in Plain Township. We would be sued. They would, in short, they would win their right to do business as long as they operate within the specifically designated area that we have. And I'll give you a good example. I've never been a fan of skills game parlors, and I tell you, we had some ugly activity with those. We legally couldn't shut those down. We made it as difficult and challenging to do business as possible by going, guess what, you're gonna end up in the industrial footprint. Well, we've only got 2 areas within the township that are industrially zoned, and they're certainly not high traffic or anything like that. Well, a number of variables come into play, and it played out, but we spent even a lot of time even within the courts on that one. So, as Eric said, this is about persistence, it's about long. It's not that there's not a sense of urgency, but we're bound by the Ohio Revised Codes, certain timetables when we start passing language to start restricting this. The only thing we can do on the immediate consistently is you're operating a business, I don't know how this would be treated, but is each transaction, a finable thing to where if we see there's 5 different transactions, or is it, hey, that's one issue, it's a citation?
I think what I would argue is, from a business perspective, it's a continuing violation.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's
Accruing.
accruing.
Okay.
And if I may, just terminology, short-term rental versus long-term rental. And that's another question, because I understand where you're coming from, that you can't just shut them down, but could you stipulate that it has to be a minimum of so many nights?
Well, I think what we're gonna do, that's part of what we're gonna work on, is we gotta get those parameters in place and what complies with Ohio laws that
Right.
exist right now.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's an answer I don't have for you right now, but it's definitely one that we're gonna have to figure out.
Sure.
But it would help if there's another address that comes into the neighborhood that you do call Tom and he can send the letter to stop and then we're made aware of that address. Because there's no way for us to find these places.
Sure.
I've looked online and they don't give you the address till they book.
Right.
So if you get an address, call us so we can start that
Absolutely.
process.
Well, I appreciate that, you know, I just don't want it to keep on going.
Yeah.
Well, neither do we. I mean, we've already seen from neighboring communities, just a high rental rate. I'm not gonna get into short-term, long-term, and it's probably more so the long, but, you know, the city of Canton at one point was well over a third, pushing 40-some% rental. And the reality is it tends to be more transient. Folks tend to take not as good a care as
Sure.
something you're owning. So now you're just exacerbating, you know, somebody, it's like, oh, I got a 1-year lease or a 1-year rental agreement, and now, heck, I can get it down to hours or a part of a day, and get out, totally amplifies that, because I can tell you if something like that moves in next to me, I wouldn't tolerate it under any circumstance. So, does that help for roadmap? Again, I think the continued communication back and forth, I mean, feel free to call in, see where it's at in the process and so forth, but
We appreciate everything you're doing to try to help with this.
yeah, well, the most important thing here is an active, engaged citizen, you know, base, because, you know, the size of Plain Township, I wish, you know, we could tell you, hey, we're proactive and we just have time to drive around and check out and watch for this stuff. Reality is, we don't, so that's where, you know, we have to lean into the residents, whether it's a nuisance abatement property because of high grass to something like this. You know, our staff certainly sees certain things without folks having to call in, but, you know, you have to pull it all together.
I don't mean to be impatient, but it was very scary.
Oh,
I
I can't even imagine. My kids would have been terrified, but I can't even imagine.
I've given you my explanation on the record. I'll tell you how I handle it personally off the record.
I understand that, but not long ago, I was sitting on my front porch and I'm retired, and 2 sheriffs pulled up to that house. And I'm like, hey, that's a rental. He yelled at me, and I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to help you out. There ain't nobody there. And then he come over and apologized. He says, I'm sorry. I said, well, is there a problem? He says, well, a telephone dinged a dead body at this residence. I'm like, what? I got little kids that come to my house. I know. That's just crazy.
Okay. Well, that concludes the sheriff's report. Unfinished business, Lisa?
Yes, thank you. And you all don't have to stay, don't you? I mean, you can.
Yeah,
but
you're
you
more than
don't.
welcome to, but
Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good evening.
Thank you. Unfinished business number 1 is a resolution to approve the charging rate of 0.05 kilowatts an hour at all Plain Township charging stations effective date January 1, 2022.
So moved. Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to amend Resolution 21-158 to include the fire chief, deputy chief, and director of IT safety so that their 3% Ohio police and fire contribution employee fringe benefit pickup be eliminated and instead rolled into their full-time salary.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, just to clarify, we had previously taken action, but fiscal called it out because it wasn't their specific fund. It was labeled as PRS.
Correct.
And the important part for the record is the net impact to the employees is, you know, it still nets it. What it does on the front end is makes the salary look a little bit more, which that's what, you know, retirements.
Helps towards retirement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I actually thought in the original one that we caught that and eliminated it because it didn't speak to 2 different pensions.
Just
So
look at one.
it was just an oversight.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that's the end of unfinished.
New business, I'll take the first one. Orion Speed Signal had a conversation with one of the council members from North Canton, requested the ability to place one of those speed signals where it's, you know, they're the solar it's a flashing speed limit. They were looking on Orion, a specific location has not been identified. Essentially what they're looking for is to place it within our right of way, which there's certainly prior precedence of placing things within right of way, whether it's gateway pillars to even the lights that are at the bottom of Strapmore and Everhard. What the council person who I was talking with had indicated was, you know, they've got the money, they can go at it alone. You know, of course they asked, you know, would we consider sharing in the cost? My response at first was, you know, our board has previously taken the stance that we don't do these things. It's similar to speed bumps, and that as soon as we do it here, where else do we have? And trying to get that criteria, it's a slippery slope. Shared with them the details of what we've been working through road-wise there, and clear-cutting trees to open up the canopy, drainage issues that we're working through. So what I'm bringing forward here is, on the behalf of the city of North Canton, who approached me, was, will we grant them, you know, permission to place the speed, the speed signal within our right-of-way at a to be determined location. And I did share, you know, from additional timing with what, depending upon the funding, what could go on over there. You know, if you wanted to put it up now, it's likely going to be back down in a matter of a short period of time. So just the optics with their public, not, you know, I care about folks over there, but they're not our responsibility. See it going back down, so oh, wait a minute. So really, this is about right away for them to put it in, and then also, I mean, if you guys want to consider any type of cost sharing, whether it's, hey, this is a goodwill collaboration with them, I still just stand by the fact that I don't think their effectiveness is the same as about a speed trailer. It slows you down for a day or two while you know it's there, but once you know it's the constant, the same folks are just gonna dart through it. And, I mean, those things are somewhere between a $4,000 to $6,000 expense on average.
I thought they were more than that.
No, roughly 47,000.
Depending on
Yeah.
the type and style. Are they willing to wait until we see about the grant and the tree clearing, or can they give the board
I
a
don't
to
think,
be determined site, or?
well, I think what I've said here is a to be determined site.
Okay.
As far as timing, I don't personally care. They could put it up now. What they, from an optics, they're the one that, hey, that just went up. Why is it coming back down? Well, Plain's allowing us to put it there, but they've got a road drainage project there. So any location and relocation of it is going to be at their expense. It's not at the Plain Township Board of Trustees.
Those solar operated?
Yeah.
Those solar operated?
There's already,
Yes, and that's where Steve Wilder and I were chatting. You know, the canopy would present an issue on that right now anyways. So they've got more to think through it, but, you know, for the fact of right of way, I personally don't have an issue with it, just because they've granted us right of way, whether it's been, you know, gateway pillars to the lights at the bottom of Strapmore and Everhard. I think how I'd want to see it framed out, condition on, you know, approval is, you know, location and.
Yeah, they got to figure out
You tell
where
us
else serves their needs.
Are you looking at traffic?
Yeah.
Because Steve and I were talking, are we targeting traffic westbound or eastbound? Because we know that's going to become even a more hotbed of activity just because of the county engineers' projects at Schuylkill, Pittsburgh, Orion, those roundabouts.
yeah.
So
Do we know when those are targeted for?
I think those are coming up 2022.
It's gotta be close.
Because they have our
We
projects.
started talking about it 2 years ago.
Yeah, we're already starting to get some oops tickets for
Mhm.
those, so, yeah, the daily average is over 8,000 cars right now. So, and there's gonna be an uptick in that, at least 10%. We figure, so.
Just on Orion,
Just on Orion,
between Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
we've tried giving that to the county to swap, and they won't even touch it.
We'll even repay
They're like
it
great
with
white
that.
ninjas taking off, they don't even wanna.
Well, I wanna avoid that Golden Village traffic.
Yeah.
That's one of our, well, probably the busiest roadway. So, yeah, I'll reach out to them, Scott, and get the location.
So for guidance to provide, first and foremost, are we comfortable with granting them the right way? Okay. So then the second piece of that is, I'll circle back with the council person, say, hey, our road superintendent's gonna reach out, just because you know all the project variables that are going on over there. We information share that, and then if they say, hey, we'd like to put this thing up in January, all right, even though you know it's, dark early, tree canopies covered, any placement and any removal and replacement of it is at their expense.
Along with any, let's say there's damage to it.
We don't even have our final design.
All maintenance, upcare.
Yeah, 'cause we don't even have our final design of our storm
Yeah.
project yet, so
Yeah.
we're in the early phases of that, so.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Right, item number 2 is a resolution to authorize purchase and payment in the amount not to exceed $21,788 to EV United for materials and installation of the EV Level 2 charging station to be installed at Veterans Park, to be paid from Fund 01B02, and to be reimbursed by AEP, Ohio Commercial Electric Vehicle Charging Station Incentive upon installation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Eric?
So when we originally applied for this location, we could apply for up to 6 ports of charging. We only did 4 here because we didn't feel that we needed 6. So we took a stab at getting another port or another station at the Veterans Park, since we already have the infrastructure in place. Originally, we were placed on the waiting list, and then AEP contacted me and said that they could do partial funding on the project, which I was a little hesitant about. And then about a week later, they called me and said that they had a cancellation of 2 projects and could fully fund ours. So I reached out to ChargePoint and got them to reduce the contract to as low a number as I could. And I think working with JP and Paul, I think we can get that spread down a little less than the 5% skin that we would have in the game currently, just by offsetting some of their labor with ours. And again, with the grant funding that's available out there now, this is it for AEP's grant funding. That comes down from the PUCO. But next year, we'll potentially have some additional incentives made available by the EPA and then possibly the Build Back America or Build Back Better America. But I think taking advantage of the grant dollars that are available now is a good investment in the, in the long term. We have a very suitable site. Rob and I did an inspection of that site this morning. I met with AEP's engineers there this morning to make sure that we had the adequate infrastructure in place, and it's pretty much a turnkey location up there. Plus, it's a high traffic area for the for the residents and visitors.
Again, as you and I discussed a little earlier, that's up close to surveillance, but we'll want some additional.
Yeah, I'll probably throw another camera spot on that. I mean, we have roaming cameras to operate on that park, but
Fixed.
they'll probably put
And
another
I just say
camera.
it because it's just a matter of time before somebody's going to go screwing around with it. No different than, I get it's significantly different than the playground equipment, but when stuff's out of sight, yeah, folks will.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we
forgot
have,
to ask, are those rapid chargers?
these are not DC chargers.
Okay.
When you start, and we actually are working on another initiative for DC chargers, but you're looking at about $100,000 a pop for DC.
Really? That
Whoa.
much?
The DC chargers are going to be something that you're going to want when you're traveling. So obviously the best locations for those is very close to your main corridors, about 77, 30, and 62. These destination level 2 chargers are more, obviously for the convenience and for out of towners, for new car owners, for somebody that's got somebody in from out of town that doesn't have the capacity to charge. And obviously this location here, as we all know, was chosen because of all the amenities of the Oakwood Plaza. The Veterans Park one, obviously we have that's one of our highest volume parks to be visited. We have a lot of other amenities that people take advantage of there, and then most importantly we have the power infrastructure already in place. So it made it an obvious site for turnkey.
And I just want to say thank you to Eric
Good deal.
for going after these grants and these initiatives and chasing after this second grant for us.
Yeah, that's realistically speaking, That's like us paying tax on a $20,000 project. And if I can get that reduced by a small margin, we may be literally potentially out of pocket nothing, short of the fact that we'd have to lean on roads labor a little
Sweat
bit.
equity on our.
Sweat equity, but, at the end of the day, like I say, we never anticipated a lot of high volume in the initial inception of this, but give it a few years from now, I think that the price of charging stations, one, is gonna go up, two, the grant funding's probably gonna dry up, and then trying to get the electrical work done, because it'll be so popular and high demand, it'll be more difficult. So I think us getting ahead of the game is gonna pay off long-term.
I agree. Thank you for everything that you
Sure.
do.
Sorry, just getting back to, so we've got a motion, we're at discussion, just roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
And that's the end of new business.
Takes us to the fiscal officer, Tom.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer 1 is a resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $987,847.70.
So moved.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless.
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless.
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Mrs. Harless.
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the November financial report.
You guys got questions, feel free to see Tom after.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for EMS as requested by Ohio Billing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless.
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless.
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer 7A and 7B are the bank reconciliations for July and August. Fiscal Officer number 8 is a resolution to enter into a contract coverage agreement with the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation for calendar year 2022 to authorize payment to the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp of $95,893.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yeah.
Fiscal Officer number 9 is a resolution to authorize payment to members of the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals for the period of July 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021 at the rate of $50 per meeting for a total of $1,150.
So moved.
Second. Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 10 is a resolution to hire Everlast Landscape to demolish the garage located at 3221 Roosevelt Avenue Northeast, parcel 52-10201, in the amount not to exceed $4,680 from Fund 01826N, and be further resolved that all expenses so incurred by the board will be entered upon the tax duplicate, will be a lien upon the land from the date of entry.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
So, just quick, after we do this and we pay for it, can we apply to the land bank to get 50% of that cost back?
That's a good question. With the fact that it's an accessory structure versus a resident, I don't know if there's a criteria on that, because I know,
Just curious.
I'm clearly going back to
Yeah.
time as one of the founding members of that. It had to be the residential structure, because we had some other inquiries, but given the amount of different funding sources they now have, it very well could be. So if we recover even half,
That's what I'm saying, I just think if it's available and all we have to do is apply for it every time we do one of these. Now, even if we get it, we're probably only gonna get one, but
One's better than none.
that's what I say. I mean, if they can give $500,000 to Hall of Fame Village.
for blank that they created themselves. All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
That concludes the fiscal officer's report.
Thanks, Tom. Administrator?
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment to Kurtz Brothers for hauling not to exceed $4,650.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment to Kent Data Print for printing and postage of the 2021 Plain Township Winter Newsletter.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment to Elite Auto Body for repairs to our 2018 Ford Police Interceptor.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the end of the administrative report.
Chief?
Thank you. Item number 1 is our monthly report.
You guys are still busting tail over there.
Yeah, volume is still up quite a bit with COVID stuff.
Questions? Next.
Okay, item number 2, resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize reimbursement to Michael Hill for $320 for a healthcare membership according to provision 37.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize reimbursement to Joe Teal for the amount not to exceed $400 for a healthcare membership reimbursement according to provision 37.
So moved.
So moved, John. Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution to offer employment for the position of a part-time probationary firefighter EMT pending successful completion of township medical exam and background checks and drug screening. Wages and benefits to be established by resolution 21-155, and his name is Tristan Hamilton.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees doing business as the Plain Township Fire Department to enter in the following service and business associate agreement with Ohio Billing according to the attached agreements.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 6 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to enter the following MOU with Cleveland Clinic Mercy Hospital for the purpose of EMS medical direction and pharmacy medical control services for attached attachment.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So this MOU basically gives us standing orders January.
That's correct, yeah. The Stark County Med Control is, Cleveland Clinic is moving away from the Stark County Med Control, which currently controls our standing orders in Stark County for paramedic and EMT services. So, us already being on umbrella from Mercy, it makes sense to migrate to that as for programs throughout Summit, Stark, and Cuyahoga County.
Question, because it happened to be at this staff meeting, didn't think about this So Altman's still tied to prior board. Will we have to, when Altman chooses the route they're going, will we have to adopt potentially a second set?
No,
Orders, or
because
as long
it
as fire-
covers all fires, or all ERs which it would be transported to.
Okay,
Yeah, so Summit County, Stark County, et cetera.
okay.
So will the departments that were connected to Mercy, most of them will also go to this standing orders? I know right now it's a patchwork.
Right, I would think so. I mean, you know, you have SUMA orders, we have Stark County orders, then obviously now we have the Cleveland Clinic, Northeast Ohio paramedic standing orders. So there's actually gonna be 3 probably in Stark County.
So again, this is just for my own understanding. So our guys working, whether they go to Altman or Mercy, will follow Mercy's standing orders?
Yeah, actually, it's the Northeast Ohio Cleveland Clinic order, yeah. No matter where you transport, you function on those orders.
Okay.
Whether we go to the Summit,
So it's not the destination hospital, it's who signs your medical direction?
that is correct.
All right.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And item 7 is just basically an informational thing. We received a grant, and I have to give credit to Vicki, our secretary, because she did, this was a real lengthy application to get this money. And basically, it's kind of a Medicare / ARP rule funding for EMS. So, and we're probably going to be getting another chunk from another side of this too. So it was a bureaucracy kind of grant that took a lot of effort to get, so. And it's about $3,800 for now. So we're hoping to get more.
Reflect the appreciation for her going to the extent of the time, because anytime we can bring in outside resources to offset.
Yeah, this didn't cost us anything to get, just, time and effort, obviously.
So it's a pass-through grant,
Yeah,
no reimbursement grant, it's just pass-through.
right, so similar to,
Yeah.
the other funds you guys have received.
Those are easy ones. I mean, not easy to get, but once you get it, once you're awarded,
Yeah. And that concludes fire department.
Takes us to the road. GP?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Road number 1, we have our monthly report.
Salt usage is really low
Yeah,
right now.
we're-
This
we're
nice warm
hoping-
weather.
Yeah, we're hoping January, February, and maybe a little bit in March. So, yeah, we've been out 4 times so far. So, we've got plenty of room for it.
Good stuff.
And just, number 2 is just a quick FYI. We had a collaborative training with Parks and Road. We had our mandatory MS4 training. That's mandatory every year. And to follow that up, we had our MS4 inspection today. I know I sent you guys an email, but just wanted to pass along a big thank you to our team. Stark Soil they couldn't believe the shape that our facilities were in, how clean. A lot of the things that they picked, I wouldn't say picked apart, but that we got dinged for last year, as far as they seen, we had 0 violations. So.
That's a first ever. He's
Yeah,
playing
first
it down. We've never had that happen.
So,
And I gotta tell you, I know he and Drew have been hitting it hard, and that was
yeah.
a goal, and I said, don't be upset, and it's good to have goals, but that is, fantastic.
Yeah, it's not just Drew and I, it's everybody.
It's your whole team.
It's the mechanics, it's our
Mhm.
road, it's parks, it's fire, it's Eric at Yard Waste,
I
it's
was
the
just
whole
gonna ask,
team.
do they look at our?
Yep,
Oh,
it's
oh,
yard,
yeah.
that was
So
the
all
first
those
place we went.
improvements that we did
Yeah.
probably helped.
100%,
Yes.
yeah. Yep, and we let them know what we're looking for in the future, and then at the road garage, obviously, there's a lot more to look at as far as catch basin, the filter socks, scrap metal off the ground, which that was one of the things we got
In the past,
dinged
yeah.
for in the past, so we brought in a dumpster, we tarped it. So it's a lot of those little things that people don't realize, that we stress to the team, and again, from the road aspect, our guys have really kicked it up a gear, and I can't thank them enough, so. Great job to the entire Clinton Township staff, so.
Good work.
Yep. And that concludes road.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Sonny, Tom?
Thank you, sir. First item on the agenda is the monthly report.
Okay.
Item number 2 is a resolution to reappoint Demetrius Poussalides to the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2022, expiring December 31st, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And item number 3 is a resolution to appoint Alex McKellen to the Plain Township Board of Zoning Commission for a 5-year term commencing on January 1st, 2022 and expiring December 31st, 2027.
So moved. Brooks, second. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And finally, item number 3 is a resolution to set a date for a hearing to discuss a zone change for 3801 Hormone Avenue. The current zoning on the property is B2 General Business District, and the applicant is seeking to change the zoning to I1 Light Industrial District. The hearing will take place at the next trustee meeting on December 28th, 2021 at 6:15 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that concludes zoning.
Takes us to parks, Rob.
Thanks for one and only items, a monthly report.
How did the first Parkinson's class go?
It's going well. Excuse me, my throat's caught. Went well. We've got a couple participants. I was speaking with Tina today, actually, and when you're dealing with the demographic, there's always some challenges or some hesitation with any change when it comes to instruction or change in programs. So she's working her way through some of those natural hurdles. But like I said, I think that comes with a new program, a new class, and some new instruction for folks who were previously with different instructors. But it's going well.
I do want to call out the great collaboration with the whole rebranding of Winterfest to Holiday at the Square. I was in a meeting a little bit earlier before here, and somebody said, I'm so excited to come over, got the kids loaded, and then they noticed how many people were here, and it's like, I think we're gonna have to go do something else. So I think the impact of rebranding, outside of what's going on here at the square, it was huge, and the impact of the community partners, it's where we gotta just keep playing it up. So, nice work by all.
My kids enjoyed it immensely.
Any further discussion? Okay, that concludes parks. Law Director, Eric?
Yes, just one item today, and that is the objection to 4595 Kirby Avenue annexation. We talked about this at the last meeting. We're concerns about the island creation of the southern portion of this one. We typically don't object to these, but we thought we would for this one, or at least I'm bringing it to you for your decision on that.
Also move.
Second.
Discussion. Makes sense based upon law.
I think so.
Where the commissioners are right.
Yeah, and it may be that it's not, but at least let's have them take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And Tom, would you please certify that and get it to the commissioners, please?
Sure.
From your office, thank you.
Okay, nothing on communications. Anybody in the audience for public speaks? Seeing none, takes us to concerns of trustees. John?
I'll start off with the honor home update. And I'm going to keep this brief for now because I know we've had a long meeting. So, and I'll speak a little bit more to this at the next meeting. But so I was asked to serve on the advisory committee for the honor home, and actually was at my first meeting today. I found out something that the campuses are expanding. So we currently have 3 facilities that house homeless veterans. And they're expanding that to 2 more. Those will be over on Lesh and Millvale. So they will actually be occupying what used to be the Boca group homes. And what their goal is to have the campus at the Lesh Millvale sites as the female campus. And I'll bring some statistics and some data that we went over today. It's actually really interesting. I'm really excited about serving with this group because access to veterans, just what little bit I've been subjected to, is extremely difficult. And, you know, these people that I'm serving with on this committee represent multiple agencies, but boy, they are passionate about what they do. And but I thought that was really interesting that all 5 of those complexes will be within Plain Township.
Any other questions? Next item, was House Bill 126 reminder. I think everybody got hopefully saw the OTA notification on the call to action. The Senate's taking up a vote tomorrow. And originally House Bill 126, as it notes, required a jurisdiction to pass a resolution before filing a property tax complaint or a counter complaint through the Board of Revision, and provided additional notices to the property owners. However, this amendment substantially altered the bill to only allow the filing of an initial property tax complaint by the property owner themselves, among other changes. So in effect, this bill now prohibits townships and other political subdivisions from initiating a challenge to the property tax valuations they believe to be undervalued. And it just goes on, the OTA is opposed to both the original bill and the amended version. So contacting our senators, I know we had sent, we sent the letter, went to the entire delegation, both the House and Senate. But, you know, whether it's texting or calling Holslager or Schuring, Senator Schuring, just a reminder.
And Marissa Myers sent out before the meeting another call to action saying, please, if you haven't, reach out to them, so.
Anything else concerns trustees? Seeing none, concerns of the fiscal officer?
No concerns.
Takes us to the approval of the minutes for November 23rd, 2021. I will so move.
Second.
That was like a tie. Call Brooke. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Then next is the approval of special minutes for December 7th, 2021. Also move.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Then make a motion to be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:57 p.m. from this regular meeting is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 1B, employment of a public employer official.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.